Morning. That was quick. How are we all? Sun shining in Northern Ireland. New shoes. Welcome Cafe Church. Welcome Inner East. Lovely to have you with us this morning. I guess before I get into what I want to talk about a little bit today, I just want to give you a heads up on in fact, two things I want to talk about. One is what Jamie talked about serving. And I just want to throw something in about joining a team here. I was having a chat with Jude, who is our kids youth pastor here. And I was saying to her, tell me about your teams, tell me about the type of people on your teams, tell me about the type of people you need on your teams. And she said, you know what, Owen, we've got loads of great this is for Sunday serving. So Sunday is the young, it's like P7 to about third year, go out to Eden every morning on a Sunday for the 10 o'clock service. And she said, we've got loads of kind of older teens who are great and really enthusiastic and upfront and fantastic. We've got loads of people in their 20s who are brilliant and, again, really engaging, like enthusiastic, make fools of themselves, all that kind of thing. She said, you know what we really need? We really need parents. We really need mums and dads and grandparents to come up on a Sunday and just be in the room. And just be there and maybe come alongside a kid who's maybe on the outside or something, or just be there. We talked a little bit about it in this church, about the power of grandparents and the power of parenting and this whole, like the answer to an orphan nation is parenting. It's not a government, it's not a new government scheme. The answer to an orphan nation is parents. And actually, I just want to throw that out there because I don't want you to write yourself off and go, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that. No. There's always a place for you. And actually, some of these kids need you. And they don't need you to be super anointed or swallowed your Bible or to get a degree in youth work. They just need you to love them. Like, can you love a kid?
Yeah. That's good.
Please tell me the answer is yes. That was a little part. You left me hanging there for a little bit. That was a bit awkward. Ah, dear Jesus, please come now. Something else. It's been a funny, I suppose, a funny week in a way. Anne's granddad passed away on Wednesday. We had the funeral yesterday, and so it's interesting preparing a message with the backdrop of a death in the family coming over, connect all of that, and I guess it's got me thinking. I'm kind of on this journey I talked a little bit about last week around your best gift is a healthy you. We're going to get into that a little bit more today. And about understanding ourselves. And I've learned a lot about myself over the last couple of weeks, kind of going on this journey. And one of the things my personality type does, or I do, is I am the relentless optimist in the room. So, just my ability to reframe every negative situation into a positive situation is legendary, although I realize not always helpful. It's took me a while, but I've got there. And I think particularly with what Leah shared this morning, I didn't know that was going to happen. And just this sense that I need to get better. And I think probably we as maybe charismatic churches that I've been involved with over the years, we do some things really well. We do faith and we do risk and we do adventure. We do the goodness of God really well. Don't always think we do suffering well, or we do pain well. We don't like it. We kind of avoid it because, well, it's painful, right? And I want to get away from it. And I think there's something that we need to learn. I need to learn in that idea of actually, you know what, we do live in a world, there is suffering, there is loss. The great statistic is everybody at some point will die. It came back home to me a little while ago, last month. One of my close friends I grew up with, his father died. And his father was my scout leader and my dad's friend. So I had that hit of mortality of my scout leader is old enough to die, like of old age, and my dad's friends are now, and there's that hint of mortality around thinking, crikey, we do live in a world. And now my personality type would run from that in a moment, go, the sun's shining, there's a butterfly, look, like change the subject as fast as we possibly can. But there's something I think that I need to learn. I think we as a church community, I think if we can handle suffering and we can handle pain and we can handle loss and difficulty and the things that Leah was talking about, the same way that we handle the goodness of God and the love and the wonder and the majesty and the beauty and the creativity of God. I think if we can handle both of those two things and hold both of those two things and be okay in that space, and not be like me and constantly try to reframe this and not even talk about it and like put it in the black closet because that's uncomfortable. I think God's going to take us on a journey that would really be a massive blessing to this city, ultimately to our nation and the nations of the world. So I just want to pray for that, and then we'll get into what we're talking about today. So Father, we thank you. We thank you for who you are, that you are good. And there have been times in our lives, I'm sure, in this room, those watching, that we've not always seen your goodness, or we've struggled to see your goodness, or questioned your goodness. So, Father, will you help us? Will you help us live in this world that we're called to? We live in a world that is beautiful yet broken, that is, majestic but marred. Will you help us navigate this complexity of this world, pain, suffering, joy, life, death, the whole thing? God, will you give us wisdom upon wisdom? And will you help us be a blessing to this city, to this nation, to the whole world if we can, Father? Whatever you're calling us to, God, help us be a blessing. Amen. All right. Where's my clicker? Jamie, jump on my clicker, please, buddy. Thank you. Bless you. So we're in finishing off the royalty series. Only got 2 weeks to go, and our kind of the last 4 weeks. This has been our leaping off verse that we talked about a lot. Genesis 1. So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them, male and female. He created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground." This is Genesis 1. This is right at the beginning of the book. This is the principle of first mention. So this is the first time God ever gives a command to humanity. God's first command to humanity. 2 things to note about this. 1, male and female. Everybody cool with that? It's a male and female command. This is not a male command. This is a male and female command. The male and female command is rule. Have dominion. Subdue. Rule over the entire creation that God... This is essentially the summary of all of the creation that God's given them on the earth. So rule over the whole earth, have dominion across the whole earth. So Anne and I have been unpacking that, and she summed it up 2 weeks ago with this. You are powerful. Look at the person next to you. Just smile at them. Don't they look beautiful this morning when the sun's shining? You are powerful. You are in a position of rulership over your desires, your time, and your money. You are in control of your money. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. You are powerful. You are not a victim. Anne spoke about 2 weeks ago. If you haven't listened to it, go and listen to the podcast of her 2 weeks ago. She talked about the power of life and death, like Moses when he called the children of Israel together right back in the early part of the Bible, and he laid before them 2 choices and said, "I'm going to give you a choice today. The choice is life and death, blessing and curses." That's the choice. And then the whole Bible is that narrative of us struggling with that choice. And then Jesus came to set us free from death, from the law of sin and death, so we would come alive in Him, so we would be free. So you have been set free. Whether you... Yeah. That was a good response. You can choose what to do. You have a choice. It kind of irritates me a little bit, and I have to watch my own language. When people say to me things like, "Oh, I can't do that," or "I can't go here." It's like, yes, you can. You're choosing not to. But by me saying I can't, what you're doing is you're disempowering yourself. You're making an excuse, actually, is what you're doing. And you're being, essentially, it's a victim mentality. "Oh, I can't go out tonight." Yeah, you can go out tonight. You're just making a choice not to. We'll own the choice. That's okay. But we don't like owning the choice, because if I own the choice and say, actually, I'm choosing not to go out tonight because I'd rather spend time at home than go out with you, we don't like saying that because that makes people feel uncomfortable. So what we do is we disempower ourselves and become a victim and make an excuse. Lesser response for that one, wasn't there? But that's essentially what you're doing. So we might as well just own it and go, actually, I'm choosing not to go. People say, "Oh, I can't go to the gym." Just tell the truth. I hate it. I hate it. like with a passion that's so deep in my soul, I hate it. That's why I'm not going to the gym. And I'm okay with that. It disarms people. They look at you a bit peculiar, like you were really honest. So, Anne talked about that, and then last week I talked about this fella. Who remembers who this fella was? No. Were you not listening last week? You were. This is Larry Bird. That, again, glazed looks, right? Okay. Larry Bird is one of the greatest basketball players ever to play the game of basketball. I can't even, go on, just Wikipedia, not now. Wikipedia, Larry Bird. And the story goes that Larry Bird was they asked him to come and do a TV commercial, and the idea of the TV commercial was he had this sports drink, and before the sports drink, he was going to dribble up, shoot, miss, and go, oh, Larry missed. Oh, it's terrible. Here, drink this magic sports drink. And then Larry magically gets the ball and he goes in the basket and goes, oh, I will go out and buy that. Nothing like a good bit of manipulation in marketing. The trouble is when Larry did it and he bounced up and he shot trying to miss, he couldn't miss. So he kept getting the ball in the basket. The director was freaking out. It took him 9 times. 9 goes to miss the basket. And the idea, or the understanding of it is that Larry had spent so many hours of his life, hours upon hours on hours and hours and hours of his life, training himself, training his muscle, training his brain, creating neural pathways. So it was so perfect that all he had to do was just throw the ball up and it would go in. So when he tried to miss, he couldn't break the programming in his brain. And actually what happens with us is we spend so long in our lives, charging along in our lives, living, doing it without even thinking that we build patterns in our lives. We build thought patterns, we build muscle memories, we build all these kind of patterns. And for us, they're just normal. Like me being this relentless optimist, I just thought everybody could reframe a negative situation. I thought everybody wanted to avoid negativity. Turns out I've met some people that actually quite like sitting in it for 2 weeks. Which is frankly weird to me. But for them, they're like, no, actually, I'm embracing this part of my humanity. And I'm okay with it, and I'm comfortable with it. And I'm like, I am deeply uncomfortable with that. Where are the butterflies and the rainbows? This is totally weird. So I realized that people are different, and everybody's different. And actually, you do some things in your life that you do completely without thinking. You just do them. And we talked last week about how some of those things are really helpful and great. Some of those things are deeply unhelpful. And actually, when I talked about me driving, by the way, I've got much better at driving. When I mean letting people in. So actually, I was driving home, it was yesterday, and I was driving home at that particular spot on my route home, driving in, and Anne, when you can feel your wife looking at you. And I know she's remembering my message from last week. And then I was like, Holy Spirit, please come. I need your anointing now. I will let this car in. And I let this car in, and it was all beautiful and smooth, and we just carried on. And I was like, and Anne looked at me and went, well done. But that for me was autopilot of not letting people in, or autopilot of explosive anger, or autopilot running from conflict, or autopilot not doing something. And you actually had the same thing. And we talked last week about how actually in fact, let's do this first. This is Joshua 1. This kind of sums up Larry Bird and your life. God speaks to Joshua and he says this, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it from the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep the book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. God understands, funny enough, this sounds like, I know it's like revelatory, but God understands how you work. God understands how humanity works. He understands how your brain works. He understands how the physiology of a humanity works because he breathed you into life. So God knows if he could get Joshua to constantly think upon these laws that he's given him, if he could constantly get him to thinking on these 600 plus laws over and over and over and over again, if he could keep God's law on his mouth day and night, he knew Joshua would be like Larry Bird. And Joshua would never miss when he needed to miss. And Larry Bird, I don't know if he understood Joshua 1, maybe he did. But it's the same principle. When you meditate on something day and night, when you think about something day and night, you will eventually end up doing it. And you won't even think about doing it. I had a friend a number of years ago when we lived in Manchester. We were working in a particular interesting area of town, and we were seeing amazing breakthrough. People like drug addicts were coming to faith. It was amazing. This guy came into the church. I met him, and I just thought he was a lovely guy, but everyone else sort of looked at him slightly nervously. And it turns out he was one of the biggest crims in the area. He was an armed robber. He's telling me stories of, robbing a post office and with a gun, and the gun going off and shooting himself and all this, these crazy stories. I'm like, I'm from the Vicar of Dibley village. It's like I have no kind of framework for dealing with you. Anyway, so he comes on this journey. He's a cocaine addict, drug dealer, armed robber, crazy, all this kind of stuff. And he's working on this process of kind of getting his life changed. But because he gave up crime, actually, he found out he didn't well, what do I do for money now? No joke, he said to me once, I said, what did you normally do for money? He said, if I wanted 20 quid, I walked into the shop and I pulled the guy off of the counter, opened his till and took 20 quid out and walked out. I was like, yeah, you can't do that anymore. So, yeah, I know. So anyway, he had a car that had finance on the car. I was like, anyway, don't even get me on that. Apparently, yes, anyway. Finance on this car. And he came into church one day and we're just chatting one day. And I said, how are you doing? He said, I'm struggling. This finance on the car. And I'm like, okay, well, let's have a chat about it. And he said, he throwaway comment. He said, in my old days, I would have just got one of my mates to nick it and set fire to it. And then I got the insurance. And I'm like, okay, let's not do that again, right? Carried on. Next week, he comes into the church, having a chat with him again. Same thing comes up. In my old days, I would have had my friend nick it, set fire to it, would have got the insurance. And I was like, okay. Didn't think anything of it. Next week, comes into church again. In my old days, I would have had my friend nick it. And the third time he said it, I'm like, hold on. So I tried to have a conversation about it, and he kind of brushed me off. Didn't see him for 2 weeks. Came back into church, car's gone. I said, what happened? He said, somebody stole my car and set fire to it. Any idea who it was? No, mate. Not a clue. I'm like, okay. And here's the thing. He had thought about it, even though he didn't want to do it, even though he knew it was not the right thing to do. Because he thought about it, meditated on it, I put it on his lips. Guess what? He did it. Some people think people have affairs just because they wake up one morning and get annoyed with their partner, just going to have an affair. It's not the way it works. You meditate on it, and 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 then you start speaking it, and you meditate on it. That's how it all works. What you meditate on, what you keep on your lips, you will eventually end up doing. Whether it's burning out a car, having an affair, or being like Larry Bird, sticking the ball in the hoop, or being like Joshua, making your way prosperous. You can use it for good, you can use it for evil. We want to use it for good. And we talked last week about doing your inner work, that actually you have got these patterns in your life that you have had over the years and years and years. And actually it's time to start doing some work on yourself. It's time to start doing your work, because your best gift, my best gift, is a healthy me. Anybody sign up? Don't put your hands up for this. Anybody sign up for counseling after last week? I really hope some people did. Really hope some people did. Or coaching. Coaching's better, doesn't it? Sounds like I'm less needy. Can we just have an honest conversation? We're all needy. And I know I've got it all together. Really? Let me talk to your wife. It's a bit awkward, that, isn't it? Do you know what? We've got to be really comfortable with the awkwardness. You haven't got it all together. You really haven't. You're not Jesus. And if you need reminding that you're not Jesus, just ask the person that loves you. Am I like Jesus? Yeah. And I said this last week. Seriously, when somebody asks you a question like that, don't be like the people on X Factor. Say, yeah, of course you can sing. Go and stand in front of Simon Cowell. If they can't sing, tell them they can't sing. If they need help, tell them they need help. Your best gift is a healthy you. We talked about this, the depth and quality of our relationships. How you read every study I've ever read on happiness, success, fulfillment, joy, whatever you want to call it, whatever language you want to put on it, that the number one factor for all of those things is the depth and quality of our relationships. And your depth and your quality of your relationships are largely determined by your internal world. if you are internally in pain, if you are internally sick, when you get in conflict or problems or stress, you will spill out and splash on other people. And when you spill out and splash on other people, you will hurt other people. And you will hurt the people that you love the most. When I look back at the kind of the journey that I've been on and working on my internal stuff, the people that got hurt, damaged most by my internal stuff are my family. And that got my attention enough to say, I have to work on me. All right, we talked about getting help as well. Let's talk about this. Anyone know what this is? It's a Winnebago. I'll read your story. Mrs. Merv Grasinski of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, purchased a new 32-foot Winnebago. And on her first trip home from Oklahoma University football game, she drove onto the freeway, set the cruise control at 70 miles an hour. Then she calmly left the driver's seat to go into the Winnebago's kitchen to make herself a sandwich. Not surprisingly, the motorhome left the freeway, crashed, and overturned. Mrs. Grasinski sued Winnebago for not putting in the owner's manual that she couldn't actually leave the driver's seat while the cruise control was set. The Oklahoma jury awarded her $1.75 million plus a new motorhome. To be honest with you, I don't think that's true, but it's a funny story. And you find it on the internet, therefore it's kind of true. But I wanted to bring it up because of this. We've got to turn off the cruise control. You've got to turn off the cruise control of your life. We live lives now that are so busy. The most common answer I get to, how are you, is, I'm busy. It's almost like we wear it as a badge of honor in our society today. We wear busyness as, if I'm busy, therefore I'm important, or therefore I'm valuable, or therefore I'm doing something. And we go through this kind of weird dance of, I'm busy, I'm important, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And we never stop enough to look at our lives and say, am I actually spending my energy, my time, my effort doing the things that I need to be doing the things that I want to do? What I want to talk a little bit today is, there's paper airplanes on here. I don't know where these came from. They're not part of the message, but I like paper airplanes. All right. Each one of it, this is the great thing about time. Doesn't matter how much money you earn, how old you are, where you live, education, school you went to, all of that kind of thing. Everybody gets 24 hours in a day. Everybody does, unless anybody wants to, there's a loophole. Seriously, if there was a loophole, we would have found it and made ourselves more busy. Right? Because that's kind of the thing. So, we're going to spend some time, because everybody gets the same amount of time, right? We sleep. Doctors tell me I need to sleep for 8 hours a night. If you're 13, 12 hours a night. Right? But we sleep for 8 hours a night, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So how many hours have I got left? There was a little bit of hesitation there. All the maths teachers in the room are saying, dear God. 16 left, right? It's not a trick question. I'm not trying to catch you out. 16 left. We go to work. 9 to 5, because that's what we all work nowadays, isn't it? Everyone works 9 to 5. I want to meet somebody who actually works 9 to 5. I've never met, but 9 to 5. How many hours is 9 to 5? Come on, do the math. 8 with some guy. You'll be like, 8. 8, right? Brilliant. Okay, 4, 6, 8. Right, how many have I got left? Oh, it's awesome. You guys are rocking it, right? But I got to wake up in the morning and I got to get myself ready, right? This is where it'll be interesting. How long does it take you to get ready? How long does it take you to get ready? We haven't got enough apples for some of you. How long does it take you to get ready in the morning? We're going to say an hour, right? That's reasonable. Get up at 7, breakfast, vaguely communicate with somebody in your house. We've now got clear rules in our house about who's allowed to communicate with who in the morning. So an hour communicating, right? But then you got to commute because we did 9 to 5, right? But you don't leave home at 9, generally. So you got to get to work, which on the West Link is a giggle in the morning, right? So there and back from work is what? Half an hour there and back, half an hour each way? Is that fairly reasonable, Northern Ireland? Right, okay, here we go. How many have I got left now? Who's been counting? 6. Okay, so I've got 24 hours, right? And I've just blown 18 of them on sleeping and going to work. Which means of the 24 hours in my day, I have 6 hours left. And what I want us to do this morning is turn off the cruise control and understand what makes a difference to your life is the depth and quality of your relationships. And you've got 6 hours left in your day. How many of those 6 hours do you spend actively pursuing deep relational connections with people you love? Because if you're anything like me, some days when I come home, my ability to communicate and connect is like, where's Netflix? Right? Anyone had a day like that? Anyone had a week like that? Anyone had a month like that? I want to help us this morning to just pause for a moment and think. Like, God created you to connect and relate and be with people. But we live in a world that our culture drives us to busyness. Our culture drives us to consume. Our culture drives us for status, for the next promotion, the next house, the next car, the next whatever. All of those things take time and energy. And any time and energy you spend trying to achieve a status is time and energy you cannot spend developing deep relational connections with people. I was chatting with the GP last week, and he was telling me that the reverse is also true. So happiness and joy and peace is linked to the depth and quality of our relationships. Loneliness, anxiety, and depression are linked to a lack of depth and quality in our relationships. I kind of had a moment yesterday. We were sitting with Anne's family, Anne's cousins, uncle, second cousins, partners, all of that kind of stuff. And Anne's uncle, Thomas, who lives in Montreal now, kind of had a faraway look in his eye, and he looked at me and he said, with watching his sons and his nephews and all of that around this table, about 15 of us all together, and he said, you know what, we only do this when it's a funeral. It's like why do we only do it when this tragedy strikes and we get together? Why can't we do it more often? Why? And I'm like, do you know what? It's because we're busy and because we're on cruise control. And we set our cruise control at 70 miles an hour and we've hit it. And we're going flat out as fast as we can to achieve everything that we're supposed to achieve in life. Every whatever, every pressure that's put on us, the new promotion, you're supposed to go for the next promotion. Why? Why? You're supposed to go for the bigger car, the bigger house. Why? Why, when every study that we've seen says living in a semi-detached house has no impact on your happiness from living in a detached house? Your address, your postcode has no impact on your happiness. So why do we flog ourselves to do that when the only thing that matters is the depth and quality of your relationships? Got to turn the cruise control off. I feel like the God of heaven is screaming at his kids saying, turn the cruise control off. Connect. Connect with each other. Let me say this. I was thinking and praying about this this week. We all have rough days in work, right? Everyone has a rough day in work. If you don't have a rough day in work, please come and tell me what you do and where you work. That would be awesome. Everyone has rough days. You have good days and you have bad days, right? Everybody has sometimes have a period of bad week. Sometimes it's tough, work's tough, things happen. We get all that. If you're having bad months, like months of, and when I'm talking bad, I mean, I used to have a job where the mood I didn't realize this until after I'd left. The mood in the house would change on a Sunday night because I knew I had to get up to go to work on Monday morning. And I didn't realize, but I was changing the atmosphere in the house, and everyone kind of backed off me because I went into this, I've got to go to a meeting at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. My drive was affecting the personal relationships, the deep connection with the people I cared about the most. I didn't even realize it was happening because I had cruise control on. It was set at 90 miles an hour and I was hammering it. I had another job where it got so bad, I eventually quit and left like longer than I should have done. My mum saw me about a month later. We were living away from them. We came to visit. My mum walked in the room and she's like, literally a jaw dropped. She said, "You look 10 years younger." If your job is like that, it is not worth the pay packet at the end of the month. It isn't. Because the only thing that matters, not the only thing, the most important thing that matters is the depth and the quality of your relationships. And if you are not connecting, first with God, then your spouse if you're married, kids, family, friends, if you are not connecting them, and I mean really connecting, not we're in the house at the same time. I mean connecting, like actually we've made a connection. Whatever that is different for every person. But if you are not doing that, you are heading for burnout and wreckage. And you're heading for a point in your life when you whatever age you pick, when you will look back on your life with everything you've accumulated and realize you lost the most important things that you needed in your life. And I desperately don't want that for you. And you know what? Your Father in heaven desperately doesn't want that for you. We're going to pray in a moment. We always talk beforehand about how we're going to finish the services. And kind of CFC ways, obviously bring the ministry team forward, pray, release, all of that kind of thing. We might do that a bit later, but first of all, we're just going to pause. In fact, band, can you guys come up? We'll maybe play some music. But you've only got 6 apples. And I want you to have a moment with your Father right now and have a discussion about how you're spending your 6 apples, where you're spending them, and who you're spending them with. And if you're sitting here today and you're going, he's nicked me apples, that's going to put on there. Can you put those on there as well, mate? Thanks, buddy. Bless you. He's so efficient. I've had to go on a journey with this because I've struggled sometimes to make connection, particularly when you've got 3 kids, right? And you expect the 3 kids to at least take after one of you in the relationship. You like that sometimes. Anyone ever had that with your kids? Like, how on earth do I connect with this child? Raise your hand if you ever had that. Awesome. Few of us. Fantastic. Or anyone ever had a moment where they're like with their partner, like, I have no idea how to connect with you. And then I had a moment on sometime, Friday, I think, like, I know what you're saying, but I have no earthly idea why you're saying that, because that makes no sense to me at all. That's always a good thing to say to your wife. It's brilliant. But I had to go on a journey, and I'm on a journey of who am I and who is she, and how do we connect? And I put it to you that you're not Jesus. So you could probably do with some help. Up to you. But we have things in place to help you. There are connect groups that will help you. There's anchor counseling that will help you. There's prayer ministry that will help you. All of these things will help you. But how about we be a group of people, a family like Jamie was talking about? We are the church that are committed to deep relationships, that are committed to connecting with each other and connecting most with the people we care about. which means you have to do the work. You have to do your work on you internally to change. It's not going to come about through somebody laying hands on you and praying for you. It's not going to come about with your partner changing, your kids changing, your friends changing. If you've got a problem with everybody, you're the problem. Why don't you stand to your feet? Cafe Church, Inner East, you guys can stand as well, that'd be great. I want to pray for you, then the band are going to lead us for a bit. Father, we know that you've hardwired us for connection, for relationship, and we know that there are so many areas of our life, so many times that we are absolutely on cruise control, not thinking, just trying to get through the day. Father, I pray you give us the courage to pause for a moment. And Father, you give us the courage to ask for help when we need it, where we stick our hands up and say, I need some help on this. I do not have all the answers. Father, give us wisdom, give us courage. I pray for revelation for everybody here, that they would know the areas of their life that they need to change. Father, thank you that you are with us, that you've given us the power, you've taken us out of death into life, you've broken the power of sin off us, and we are powerful and we can choose.